Oh, good morning. I woke up like this. But just kidding. Just messing with you guys. I just try to do a bit like these other YouTubers and vloggers are doing these days. Okay, anyway. So, what am I doing today? I am going to be visiting the Quakers. I really have no idea what the Quakers do or what to expect. The only stereotypical thing I've heard of or know of is that their meetings are quiet, but I don't want to make too many assumptions. And also many of you probably don't know this. Getting dressed and stuff and getting ready is normally like confusing to me because I don't know if there's any sort of special thing that I'm supposed to be wearing for most of the places I go to. So, for instance, today I'm wearing this, which I don't know if this is appropriate attire for a Quaker meeting hall. I assume they no longer look like the Quaker Oats guy. I assume they don't look like that anymore, but I really don't know for sure. But I'm sure they're really nice people. I mean, so far I've been amazed by how nice everyone is that I've been visiting and going to. So I think this will go well, but it's always confusing because I don't always know what to wear. So we'll see how this goes, and hopefully you guys enjoy the rest of the video, and I'll try to get as much footage as possible as I can and then tell you about my experience afterwards. So let's do it. Let's jump into it. So looks like I made it to the Quaker meeting hall or church. I'm not entirely sure what to call it, but the place where the Quakers meet. So it's a nice little brick building nestled in some trees and shrubbery. And we'll see if it's the quiet meeting that I anticipate it to be. But yeah, let's head inside. Then it was silent for about 55 minutes, almost an hour. The meeting was basically dead silent, and no one talked for until that one person did around 8:55. We showed up there around 7:55 in the morning. The service started at 8. We sat there in silence until 8:55, and then one guy stood up and spoke.
The last act at a burial is for each person there.
He shared a little story about, I think, his mother's funeral, where they put the pallbearers put nails into the coffin as some sort of final act of closure. And he shared the story and sat back down. And then the person who I'm supposing had to actually close out the service at 9 stood up and dismissed everyone. that was the service. Now, to some people, that sounds probably like absolute torture. To other people, that probably sounds peaceful and relaxful. And if I have any Quakers tuning in here, they're probably like, yeah, that sounds about normal. But apparently, there's two types of services you can expect if you go to a Quaker meeting. And that's either what we experience, which is what you would call a silent meeting, or what you may call a popcorn meeting, where different people are inspired to speak during the meeting. And different people start standing up and sharing what their insights are or what the light has revealed to them. And light is what they apparently refer to as God or the spirit. Ended up at a silent meeting, and I would say from my own personal experience, it was a very peaceful and restful experience. It's perfectly located. Like, there's a lot of trees and wildlife, so you always hear like chirping in the background, and then you hear like there's a little bit of a road that's nearby, and you can hear the hum of cars and stuff. And there's just this general ambiance that's like, you're at peace, you're restful, and it's nice, cool, and shaded. So the ambiance is really good, and it really puts you in a mood of peace. And I really felt at peace, and I really felt restful. So I just spent a lot of time praying for the first like 40 minutes or so, praying, thinking, and I did take a little bit of footage. The last like 15 minutes to 20 minutes, I was like, okay, I'm getting kind of tired. I felt like I could fall asleep, and I was like, okay, I think I'm ready to go. I think the one guy did fall asleep, but that's neither here nor there. It was also kind of strange because sometimes I would close my eyes and then sometimes I would open them again, and I would realize that I'm facing people. So like all the benches, as you can see in the footage, is just like facing each other. And so it's just kind of weird if all of us have our eyes open, we're just kind of looking at one another in silence. So I just try to avoid eye contact most of the time. It was just kind of strange in that way. But yeah, it was a very modest. The one we went to at least was very modest in its appearance. But there isn't much to say in regard to the actual service because it was silent for most of it. So it was just mostly introspective for me. we did end up afterwards talking to a nice Quaker man who gave us a tour of the building, who kind of told us about Quaker history and shared with us a little bit more about their theology and what they believe. So I'm just going to kind of tell you what he kind of shared with me, some of the things that I remember and the things that stood out to me. After the service, we met with this guy. I'm just going to call him Eric. I can't remember what his name is, and I think it was start with an E. I could be wrong, but I think his name was Eric, something like that. Anyway, we met with Eric, and he gave us a tour of the library first.
Oh, okay.
Stuff. I have no place else to put him, so I put him in with that group.
Gotcha.
Here we have classics, with the works of George Fox, Isaiah Pennington.
Yeah.
Here's history.
So he showed us a library, which is right outside of the sanctuary where they sit in silence. And he kind of showed us the books that they have there. They have old ancient books from like the 1800s and stuff of Quaker history and the old Quaker theology and stuff like that. They have new modern Quaker writers. They also had different religious books. So they had the Bible, the Quran, Tao Te Ching. They had words of Buddha and the Vedas and stuff like that. So they had just different religions. They had everything in between from there. They had Abraham X. Kennedy with critical theory. They had some different philosophers and different thinkers. They had some even like more modern books, more modern writers. They had kind of a plethora of stuff. I think they even had some Shakespeare plays and stuff in there as well. So they had different things in their library. Apparently, according to Eric, the Quaker meeting that we went to is part of a more liberal denomination. They were similar to a certain extent to the Unitarian Universalists in the sense that they believe everyone from different religions can have something to offer or have some sort of spiritual experience. So he did say that some Quakers are still more conservative. Some Quakers are more Christian in how they are, because Quakers do have a Christian root. So he said some of them are more conservative and stick more to that Christian root. Others, like them, are more liberal and don't really associate with Christianity. So people can be, more Muslim or more Christian or more Buddhist and be a part of the Quaker society, which is interesting to note. Quakers was actually a derogatory term that was used to refer to what they are actually called Religious Society of Friends, but they were called Quakers in the older days, and they just kind of adopted the term and used it to refer to themselves to steal the power from the insult. So that's just a fun tidbit for you. But after he showed us the library, he kind of showed us around the rest of the building, and the rest of the building was a school. So apparently, according to him, a lot of Quakers like to have their own schools for their children to raise their children in Quaker values, kind of like Mennonites or Catholics or Amish and stuff do. They like to raise their children with Quaker values. And so in this case, their meeting hall was also a school. It was also where kids could go to learn and be educated. And it wasn't a big school. It was rather small, but it was a school that would promote Quaker values and stuff like that. And as I already kind of noted, Quakers apparently refer to God or the Spirit as light. And so whenever he talked about light, talk about God and stuff, he would talk about light. And apparently they often try to, when they speak at meetings, like the popcorn meetings, they are inspired by the light to speak. And so there seems to be this idea, by what I could best tell, that Quakers really wait a lot for inspiration from some sort of spiritual presence. And that plays a big part in how they view the world and how they approach things. I guess I didn't visit the more conservative one. This is how the more liberal one was operating. I guess the more conservative ones may be more like inspiration from the Bible. But apparently, by what I could best tell, what makes someone Quaker is more of how they structure their church. The guy showing us around did say there's some people who take on the name of Quakers who aren't really Quakers. They're pretty much evangelical Christians. But he said your traditional Quakers, even if they're more conservative, will structure their services in a certain way and structure their actual leadership in a certain way. So what makes Quaker unique is their leadership structure. As it's quite obvious, there is no pastor or priest who preaches at a Quaker service traditionally. So there's no one who's giving a sermon, there's no one who's teaching. It's all about being inspired by the light. And so everyone can have a say, if you will. And there's no actual leadership outside of that either. According to Eric, the Quaker church that we go to and most Quaker meeting halls and stuff have what they may call committees. There's a group of Quakers or a group of people from that Quaker community, who help the process with voting. So they have democratic votes on how people should move forward, And apparently this process is very slow when it comes to decision making for Quakers because they often try to get some sort of unanimous vote and they try to pull in the light, and where's the light leading. Their structure is very, very flat. There isn't really a leader. There isn't really a hierarchy. Everyone in theory is on the same level and has the same amount of sway and influence on decision making. So it's supposed to be very egalitarian. It's supposed to be very, very non-hierarchy. It's supposed to be very flat. And so that's what makes Quakers very unique, is how they structure their denomination, their services, and their leadership. Outside of that, Eric shared with us some different things of the process from like the 1700s to now the 300 years of Quaker history, which I can't remember most of what he shared in that regard because it was just so much. And he also shared with us a little bit of their theology, but again, he shared more of that because of their liberal tradition. Everyone can kind of have a say. Everyone kind of speaks up and can share their perspective. So in that way, that one was more Unitarian Universalist. I'm still kind of curious what a conservative Quaker would be like, but that was mostly what he shared with us from their perspective. But overall, I enjoyed my experience there. I enjoyed the people there. They were very friendly people, and it was just a very interesting experience to be among the Quakers. So yeah, if you enjoy this type of thing, if you enjoy seeing me visit different religions and different religious services and buildings and different religious people, talking to different people from different communities, and also engaging with different religious books and all these different things, just exploring the world, really exploring different cultures, continue to leave likes below, leave comments below, share with me another place you would want me to go visit, and yeah, I'm going to keep doing this. I'm going to keep trying to build this community of people from different backgrounds, different places, different religions, so we can create a place for people to get to understand and know each other better. So thank you for watching. Leave a like, subscribe, and continue to join me on this journey. And I want you guys to keep going out there and lighting the world yourselves. Thank you, and have a great rest of your day.